Yeah, that was an incredibly tough 3 years. Sometimes tapping into looking at what's being said about chronic fatigue, and I just had to go, whoa, it's, it's too doom and gloom. And then I went Googling and your name came up. This is what I've been looking for.
Well, thank you for joining us. And today we have Mel, who has very kindly agreed to come and chat to us about her experience with chronic fatigue and lightning process.
Hello, very happy to be here.
Excellent. So look, the couple of things that people are really interested in hearing about really are, what was your journey like? What was it like? How did you find the lightning process, and what is life like now? And just before we pushed record, we were talking about how difficult it can be to find good news stories. So that's really what I'm wanting to offer here. Just people to understand that chronic fatigue isn't lifelong. There are things you can do.
Yes, very important.
Tell us your story. Back to the start. What happened?
Well, back to the start. Well, look, it sounds like it was probably a typical start where, there wasn't an obvious cause. I had a virus, wasn't recovering, and if anything, steadily declining. Just, well, surely this is gonna move on soon, like a normal virus would, and 2 weeks down the track going, oh, I'm still not any better. In fact, I feel worse, finding it difficult to get out of bed, going, oh, surely this is going to shift soon. And, another 2 weeks down the track, another month down the track. Oh, okay, I better go to the doctor, and because this is something that I haven't experienced before. Reassured that this will pass. This is not atypical. And several months down the track, I was still in a similar situation, which was pretty much bed-bound on a better day, homebound, trying to get some work done. But yeah, things just weren't going very well at all. Having to really significantly change up what I was able to do in my life. And at that point, still continuing on, going, oh, surely this isn't. And I remember chronic fatigue coming to mind, and I was just like, pushing that away, going, no, this is not what it's going to be. And yeah, and really that was a typical story for probably a good 3 years. Yeah, that was an incredibly tough 3 years. Yeah, and lots of the searching, the trying to understand what's actually going on. What am I doing wrong? Surely there's got to be something out there that I can do to change this up. And sometimes tapping into looking at what's being said about chronic fatigue, and I just had to go, whoa, it's too doom and gloom. For me, it wasn't helpful. And, had a bit of a look into some of the support groups, but again, found very quickly that wasn't the kind of setting that was going to be helpful to me. So I suppose in my best moments of being very unwell, it was holding on to hope, and then in my not so great moments, feeling very desperate and very upset about how much my life had changed, and just really grappling with, feeling like I was ticking all the boxes and how to have a good lifestyle, how to have a healthy lifestyle. But yet I was in a situation where my quality of life was incredibly poor. So,
Yeah. And so prior to this, you were very active. That's fair to say, loving an active life.
Yes, very. Yeah, that was definitely a love. Lots of different types of recreational activity. Being out in nature is something that I really value. Favorite activities are surfing and mountain biking, and love to do yoga. Also, there's some team sport in there. I really enjoy playing hockey too. But I'd also just actually in that initial period of than what I now accept was chronic fatigue in those early days. I had just submitted my PhD. I was heading down a different career path. I was really excited about that. So that was also a very difficult aspect to somehow, I don't know if you can be okay with it, but just grappling with, everything was looking really, really positive until it wasn't.
Yeah. There's a piece that people often don't talk about, but I think it is a significant piece. So that's the loss of identity that comes with, I love activity and I can't do the things I love, or I'm a sharp thinker and suddenly my brain is just not functioning. And that's massive threat and stressful to have your identity lost, and then to start to hear the horror stories that are out there.
Yeah, no, scary. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it was definitely, and at that time, my daughter, my only child, she was 10 and a very active young girl as well. And so up until that point, like I had been able to participate in the way that with her and the way that she needed. And so navigating that space was really hard too.
Yeah, wow. So you get a diagnosis, or it sinks in that maybe this is chronic fatigue?
Yeah, it took me a long time to name it up. And actually what I did decide to call it is current fatigue. Yes. So yeah, it took me a long time to name up, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. And then yes, it's sat much better with me calling it current fatigue. But as much as I would sort of put these things in place to help me deal with what I was dealing with on a daily basis, was that stuff like naming it up as current fatigue was obviously helpful, but it's certainly at times it wasn't enough for me. Well, I'm calling it current fatigue and it's still hanging around. Yeah.
I do love that because there's an element of chronic, just the hopelessness and never-ending nature of it. And that's not the case with chronic pain or chronic fatigue. It's just inappropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And at some point you came across the lightning process?
Well, it took a bit of time. So my background, I worked in allied health for a number of years, and I was aware of, the shift in the way that chronic pain was being understood, and therefore how differently it was being treated, or how different the interventions were. And so I was, when I felt able to, though I had my husband helping me as well, like we would just have a look and see, okay, well, because where my husband and I got to is going, oh, there's so much also about this that feels like that has similarities to chronic pain that we had both experienced in the past. Like certainly some inconsistencies there around 1 minute you don't have pain and the next minute you do because you've thought about it, or, and we were increasingly curious, how would this be applied to something like current fatigue syndrome? And then I had a friend who had done some research on chronic fatigue, and he had done an exercise-based study. And basically what they found is that there was the conclusion that they drew. Basically, they did the study where they had people with chronic fatigue just doing very, very light physical activity. And then same group, they had a washout period. Same group came back a few weeks later, and they did something that was higher intensity, and found that basically the fatigue levels didn't change. And so the conclusion was that, monitoring heart rate in the way that is often recommended, it might not be the answer here. And I remember reading that, and I was sitting on the couch, and I remember feeling very unwell, and I just take myself down to the local oval, and I did a sprint as fast as I could around the oval and came home and went, well, we'll see what happens here. And I didn't miraculously improve, but I didn't get any worse. And I went, well, okay, if this doesn't make me worse, mentally this is making me feel a lot better because I'm out there doing things. So that was the beginning of that journey, and just went about in a very measured way, increasing actually what I was doing in my day, finding that it wasn't correlated with my symptoms. So that gave me reassurance to keep moving forward. And then I got to a point, it was probably at the 6-year mark. And I went, oh, you know what? Okay, look, I'm not 100%. I'm about, 65, 70. It's all right. If this is how it's going to be, okay. I'd like it to be better, but it's not, but it's better than what it was. And then I got a flu or something, and then that just really knocked me backwards. And then I went Googling again, and your name came up, and my husband and I were having a look, and I went, oh, this is what I've been looking for. It's here, it's out there. And so I was really excited to reach out to you and then speak with you. And like within a couple of minutes, I was going, yep, this is exactly what I need. It really highlighted to me that I could only get myself so far. And I was going to need what you offered, what the lightning process offers, in order to get back to a normal state of health.
Yeah. And I guess it also shows that the importance of movement, like absolutely critical, but then movement alone, and people often try the gradual building up, and there's absolute benefit in that. I think it often works on confidence as much as anything as well. And then you can still hit a roof or some kind of limit. And what's the next step?
Yes.
Cool. So I remember we had discussions around pain and fatigue, and it was very clear that you had your head around the pain concepts, which helps so much. I think the biggest obstacle for recovery is misunderstanding pain or misunderstanding fatigue.
Yes. Yeah. And then what comes with that understanding from going through the lightning process is this, for me, it was this incredible level of relief. I know I've heard others use this term as well, but incredibly empowering. Like, what I love about this program is not only did it help me achieve the life that I love, I just found its application to so many things in our daily lives is really valuable as well. Yeah, just noticed myself using a lot of the techniques in different ways. Like there was a visualization. I had a presentation to give not so long ago, and it was to a different audience. So it's a setting that I wasn't used to, and so I was feeling a bit nervous. And I was thinking about, okay, I was projecting forward about, how I would like to look at the end of that, and that, with a smile, and that thing had gone really well, and that it was really nice interaction with people. And every time I felt when my tummy got a bit fluttery, then I'd draw on that. Yeah, and that's how it ended up. It was a really lovely experience. And I just went, this is just so valuable to have this in your toolkit for so many things in your life.
Yeah, I think that's very relevant. It's just looking at how the brain and the body interact, and how we trigger responses that might not be that useful. And so clearly important for not fatigue, but fear for a presentation coming up. Sure.
Yes.
Nice to hear. So you made it through the application process, Mel, and got onto a training. Yes. How did you find the 3 days training itself?
Well, I feel like I remember this so clearly. So it is just over a year ago, and it is such an important part of my life that I feel like it is unforgettable that I stepped into that first session, so via Zoom, and I felt excited. I just knew that I was in the right place, and that this was going to help me get to where I wanted to get to. And that's what happened. Thanks, Ian.
Just the role that excitement and anticipation plays, it's critical. And I think that's that's one of the reasons I have the application process is it has to make sense, and then you have to be ready to do the work. And if you can approach it with excitement, it's
Yeah.
like any, it's much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I saw, and when I was first looking at how it was structured, the thought of actually doing it with other people immediately didn't appeal to me. And then, but I was going to be picky about this. This was an opportunity for me to get to where I wanted to be. But I then very quickly I thought, that the experience of going through that with others is incredibly powerful. And I thought, and also reassuring to, I think, just my perspective, that people going in knowing that this is not about going into past traumatic experiences. It's very much like looking forward. And I think for many that would be reassuring. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it, and again with that current fatigue history, when I think, "Geez, how am I going to go with a full day?" Which it wasn't a full day; it was 5 or 6 hours, and I thought, so that time just flew. Was plenty of energy at the end, and so that whole experience for me was very positive. So there were so many things that I came away from those 3 days going, oh, my life is absolutely looking very different now, and I feel really positive about where I'm heading.
Yeah, awesome. That group experience, I think, so invaluable. Like I do one-on-ones, but I would encourage anyone to get to a group where possible. Group, like 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
Well, it's small, but it's lovely. It's to
Yes.
get to hang out and learn and change.
Yeah, and just hearing people's stories and the incredible things that they do and what they achieve and what they've overcome. As you have named up, people who have gone through some really tough stuff, being unwell or whatever those chronic symptoms are that they've carried for a while, that's led them to your program. So, yeah, I felt privileged to be in that setting, to hear those stories and to be a part of hearing about their successes too.
Yeah, certainly inspiring people.
Mm.
There's lots of things offered for current fatigue or current pain issues, and often they are, here's a pill, or here's a device, or here's an operation or something. They're these quick fixes and passive as well. And I'm so inspired by people that have gone through hell and then sign up for a training to go, look, teach me how to do this on my own.
Yeah.
Everyone that comes to me has a horror story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah. And so you went through the training. We're 1 year down the track. I see a big smile on your face. So tell me what the last year has been like.
Yeah. Well, look, there's so many wonderful things that I was able to bring back into my life. But one thing that has come to mind so often over the last year is just so grateful, and that what many may view as small things in their life, or not noticing. I really love the fact that I notice those things. So I feel like that's really life enhancing as well. As much as, I have, I'm just so happy to be back and surfing regularly and doing all those beautiful things. It's waking up in the morning and looking forward to the day. How wonderful, and how much I'm looking forward to doing something that may even just be cooking a meal for a friend or family, or and that feels, I'm really grateful that that's how I'm feeling. Yeah. And saying that, I have really loved going like on my surfing trip to Indonesia with my girlfriends in the middle of the year. That was wonderful. Yeah. And look, and I did, without being fearful about it, I did just take my time too. It wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to take that extra work on because I'm worried. It was like, you know what? I'm just going to take my time with this and go about life more slowly and mindfully, and just enjoy this time of getting back to where I ideally want to be. And I'm pleased that I did it that way as well. Yeah. And then the other thing I would add, that such a wonderful thing for me to experience, and now after doing the training, realize that this is a reasonable, it sounds like it's a common story that you hear, Ian, is, leading up to the current fatigue, be one of these people that seem to pick viruses up very easily. And, my daughter and husband would have a sniffle for a day, and I'd be the one that's in bed for, a week or so. It's like, and then actually I was looking forward to, after doing the lightning process, I was looking forward to getting a cold. So I am going to do this differently. And no surprises really now after I've done this work. Yeah, it didn't do it differently. I think you refer to it as, what do you say? Yeah, do sick well. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, those sniffles or those viruses coming along, or that person that comes around that probably shouldn't, who's clearly unwell. And now I used to worry about that, and now it will be okay.
Yeah, sense of robust kicks back in.
Yeah. That feels really good.
I love getting like the weekly success emails. One that I often get is, my family was sick and I'm not, for the first time, and I'm looking after them. And
yes.
Yeah. That's right. Celebrating the family being sick is
that's right.
success as well.
Yeah.
Excellent, Mel. Well, what a journey. Is there one insight that sticks out of either a lesson from going way back to before it all started to now, one insight that you would pass on to people that might be looking at this and going, oh, it sounds a little bit like me, uncertain about it all?
Yeah, well, I think, look, I really, it's not to lose hope. And that's actually one of the few things I found that was helpful when I was looking for information about chronic fatigue. I did find a site that really emphasized that you will get there. Something will work for you. There is hope. You don't have to have this forever. And I remember, though, that it was like I needed to print that out and highlight it, that, it's, you can get there. And in those moments, I understand, like, when the symptoms are really high and it feels like there's no end to that, and it can be hard to keep the faith that it will change, and it can change for the better. And for me, I felt that was a really, really important part of doing my best to stay on track, as much as it was feeling like it many times that it was really hard.
The power of hope, so critical. And one of my frustrations is that a lot of the bodies that represent conditions like chronic fatigue, ME, chronic pain, the first thing is there is no cure.
Yeah, and you sort of go, really? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's heavy to read that. And I think some of those bodies are more about proving to the world that this is real and horrible. And it can be real and horrible, and there's hope that you can recover as well. Those two things coexist.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for anyone who's thinking about doing the lightning process, go for it. You've got nothing to lose. Just go for it.
Well, thank you, Mel. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story as well. Looking forward to maybe going for a surf with you somewhere.
Yes. You can face the cold waters down here.
Yes, or you can come and get some warm water.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. No, thank you, Ian. I'm very grateful. And have a wonderful Christmas.
Thank you. You as well.